They told me that the diabetes, it affects many organs.
Process it's so foreign, right? Like, how does one get a kidney? It was so surreal.
Do you know how long your mom was living with liver failure prior to her telling the family?
All those organs that do the filtration collects, the iron.
And is it safe to use herbs and natural remedies? Hell no. Why isn't it not talked about more? Why is it that you feel it's not mentioned?
One of the anti-rejection medications that I was on actually caused me to have lung disease. And so the treatment for that condition is high doses of prednisone. High doses of prednisone in turn turned me into a diabetic.
The doctor, was it a psych, or did you just work through it?
They're gonna try and keep me as healthy as possible because I was going to the clinic once a month. However, as time progressed, the disease got worse.
Oh, you're a hero, you're a hero. It's like, okay, can we not do this, please? Just conversations with the people you love. Have those open conversations and just educate yourself.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk, where we will have open and honest discussion about transplant. I'm your host, Jennen Johnson.
Today we have my friends Emmanuel and Karen. Emmanuel, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Today we're going to discuss Emmanuel's journey with sickle cell. But before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself, Emmanuel. Give us a little background, help our audience get to know Emmanuel a little bit better.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Karen, for coming. So, hey guys, first off, my name's Emmanuel Boakye. A little bit about me. I'm Ghanaian Canadian, 33 years old. I was actually born in the West End, Rex. Then we moved to the Finch, and then after that, I moved to Richmond Hill. So my parents came here in around like the 80s. And I was born in 1990, so I'm a 90s baby. And so basically, it just so happened that my parents both were carriers of sickle cell. So that's a little bit about like how I'm here today. Both my parents were sickle cell carriers, and I came out with sickle cell SS, hemoglobin SS. And so I have the full-blown sickle cell disease. I'm the second out of 3 children. I have a older sister. I have a younger brother. So yeah, I'm the middle child, which is so crazy because it's like, I have my own story as the middle child. But here you guys are going to learn a little bit more with Jennen and Karen. So you're going to learn a little bit more about me. But for now, that is a bit about me and who I am.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you again for the invite this evening, and Emmanuel, it's great to partner up with you. My name's Karen Fleming. I'm a clinical nurse specialist in the Red Blood Cell Disorder Clinic at Toronto General. I've been a nurse for 21 years, and I've been a patient advocate for sickle cell for over 35 years. So I feel like I know more of the patient side of things as I also build up a lot of the clinical side in my current role. So I'm a huge advocate for sickle cell patients. I've sat on the Ontario Health Advisory Council for the Sickle Cell Quality Standards, which are the first of their kind in Ontario and really set the standard for quality care for sickle cell patients. So has information for healthcare providers and organizations, and then has information for patients and what they should expect from their providers when they seek care. So it was awesome to be a part of that. And I try to just be involved in multiple ways. Education of healthcare providers is probably what I spend the majority of my time advocating for, is knowledgeable healthcare providers so that patients can get equitable access to care. There's a lot of barriers and inequities for this patient population. So if there was more knowledge, more time spent, more commitment and prioritization of care for sickle cell patients, there would be better outcomes, better experiences.
Agreed, 100%. Thank you very much for what you do, because it's very important. Your job is very important. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Emmanuel, back to you. Let us know about your journey, how you discovered you had sickle cell. Was it something that you were born with?
Yeah, I was born with sickle cell. They found out about it. I was around like 3 months young. I wish I could show you guys a picture of when they found out about it. The other day I was looking through my old albums and I came across a picture. So yes, they found out when I was like 3 months young, and from that point in my life, I lived with it. So as a baby, like, and this is not just my story, it's like my parents' story, because as a baby, like before I even knew that I had sickle cell, my parents were dealing with this child who had sickle cell, a disease that they like didn't know much about, like, you know, coming from Ghana. But they were here in Canada with good healthcare. We have a good healthcare system. And you know, it just so happens that Sick Kids Hospital was where, like, the hospital that raised me from a toddler. So from that point in my life, when I was like, let's say like four, no, I'd say like 5, once you started school, and I would go to my appointments with my father, I kind of realized that, like, I have these appointments all the time. Like, you know, I have like, and I would see other kids that were ill. So then, and I realized like my immune system wasn't like the best in terms of like my stamina, like playing sports and running around and just certain things. I'll get cold or fat. So that's when I kind of started realizing that, hey, I have a disability. I'm something like, I have some that's different from some of these other kids, right? And
now, did your parents explain to you at any point in time, like you said, you're now discovering this at around 4 or 5? Did they explain to you, you know, what your situation was? Did they explain to you you might be a little bit different from the others? Was there any?
Yes, okay. Yes, they did. They explained it to me, but, and this is something that like I really want to touch on, is that the lack of education is there for these 2 young adults coming from Ghana. Like, they don't really know how serious this is, and like, you know, like they explained it to me, but if they explain it to in a certain way where it's like, I don't know, I'm and we're like, I'm still learning about sickle cell. Like, I like, you know, I really found out how serious this was later on in my life. Like, you know, at a younger age, like they're just explaining it to me, but I don't know, as a kid too, and like they too weren't as educated on it, like, you know. So yes, they explained it to me. I noticed I was a bit different, you know, but I just kept going. Like, I just thought I was a kid, like a normal kid. I didn't know how serious it was.
Yeah. You know? Do you think that, I once again, you were young at that time, so I'm not sure if this is something that you spoke to them about later on. Do you feel that there was adequate information provided to them at that time? You think they just kind of sugarcoated? When I say they, I'm talking about the medical system, the doctors. Do you feel that they just kind of sugarcoated it and that's why they gave you the short version of what was going on? Or they just gave you the short version of what's going on to protect you because they don't want you to realize how serious your health situation is?
No, there wasn't a system. There wasn't a system to educate them, like, on that level. Like, you know, and I feel like there's other diseases in other communities where there's a system that is educating these people who have these illnesses, like, you know, and the communication barrier is also there, you know, like this is, they're not well spoken English, like, you know, and well spoken in English, right? And so having that system is very important because you can easily have a community that can educate them as well, like, you know, and break it down to them, and like just educate the whole entire community, and like just having the healthcare system like to show each other that, listen, and especially if you see like faces that look like you, like, listen, someone's telling you that, someone that looks like you is telling you, oh, this is what I'm gonna understand you and I'm gonna relate to you, and just know, like, I believe you, like, yo, this is something, you know, this is something serious, and just the information will be passed down along through that system properly, you know.
100%. That makes sense. So that's one thing that needs to be worked on to this day, actually. Absolutely. Is the education system. Yes. Is sickle cell hereditary, or is that something like, is it hereditary?
Yes, it is hereditary. It is hereditary. Okay. So Karen could give you a little bit more on the breakdown as to how it all works. And this is why she's here, like, you know, just to give you that that education. So
that education piece.
I like to pass that on to her.
Yes,
I love,
please.
yeah, I love talking genetics. So sickle cells passed on, it is inherited. So being born with it, whether that means it's congenital, it's inherited, it's hereditary, all mean the same thing. And so it means when, in particular with sickle cell, you get one gene from one parent and you have to get a second gene from the other parent. So it's considered recessive, meaning that you need two genes. It's not just one gene, and those two genes need to come together. And that's how you get sickle cell disease. And there's a number of different letters that can come together and still give you sickle cell disease. And so in Emmanuel's case, he got a hemoglobin S from one parent and he got a hemoglobin S from another parent. And for those that don't have sickle cell, their two letters would be hemoglobin A. I'm a sickle cell trait carrier, so my letters are hemoglobin AS. So I got one gene from my dad. And so my husband has trait, my son has trait as well. So we do have conversations with our son, just, he's only 11, but A, he needs to know about it regardless. And B, he needs to know about it when he's ready to have children. What does that mean? So that he can be educated. So yeah, that the genotypes, as Emmanuel shared, that he has one of the most severe form, hemoglobin SS. At the beginning, he said that hemoglobin SS, that's what he was speaking about, was the genotype of his sickle cell.
So if you have the trait, but your husband doesn't have the trait, I'm assuming that means the chances of your children and your children's children, the chances are reduced of them having sickle cell, correct?
It's zero. So if it's just the husband with trait, AS, and the wife has, or the partner has AA, normal, then lovely Punnett square. Let me just put it together: AA, and then over here would be AS. So you'd have 50% trait chance of with each pregnancy. You would have a 50% chance of having a child with trait and a 50% chance of having a child with neither, normal. But no, you could not have a child with disease with only one, because it's one gene's not enough, right? You need two.
Gotcha. Is there a test or anything that you can do, like while you're pregnant, to see how things will turn out with your child?
So there's a few different tests. You can always do an amniocentesis. You could do chronospilus sampling. These tests are used now. You could do pre-implantation genetic screening. I feel like that's gaining a bit more prominence, where you can actually do that before actually implanting an embryo. You could test the embryo before you actually then put it into the uterus for uptake, and then so ahead of time that whether your child has sickle cell or not. And then for those that are like here and they want to know their own sickle cell status, as we all should know, because it does not matter the color of your skin if you should know your sickle cell status. It's all over the world at this point. So really, it's important for people to look, because there's, as I said, there's different letters. There's SC, there's SE, there's SD. All these different letters come together and give you sickle cell. So really being aware will help increase or really decrease the number of births of babies with sickle cell unexpectedly. People are surprised. Much like I would say, I don't know for Emmanuel, I don't think his parents were expecting it. So it would be that same type of thing where the doctor's telling you, you're like, what do you mean my child has sickle cell? We don't have sickle cell in our family. How could my baby have it? Right. And it's because these two genes can come together.
Now, Karen, what would you say the state of the system was in the 90s when Emmanuel's parents came here to Canada? Like, what was the state, if you can speak on that, of course, in terms of our medical system and sickle cell and how that...
Well, I'm going to give what I feel like it would have been similar to, so first of all, newborn screening did not come into, for Ontario, was not included in newborn screening until 2006. So in the 90s, that is why Emmanuel didn't find out till he was 3 months. As soon as I heard 3 months, and then I wanted to hear when he was born, it's because there was no newborn screening until 2006. And so that's why. I'd be interested to know, like, how did he find out? Like, what happened at 3 months? Were you really sick or something? Your parents took you in for, and then they did a blood test, and this is how they found out something along these lines. But with respect to the state of the healthcare system, and you can come back to that for sure, Emmanuel, I feel like it's very similar to now, where there's a lack of knowledge of providers around what care to provide. Like, what does this patient population need? And when was the opioid epidemic? Dependent on when that fell, and I feel like that's more, I feel like that was, no, I feel like that's not the 90s. I feel like it was after that. But what were people's perceptions of, generally, I would say Black people in general, what were their perceptions in the 90s? I think it's similar, it's going to be very similar to now, just that we talk about it more openly. And so drug addicts, drug seeking, lazy, just coming in to seek care, just to get some sort of high off the medications. Like, they actually want to be there. Like, they've come out of their home and they've actually come to experience the bias and racism that they experience from healthcare providers. They're choosing that so that they can get high off the hydromorphone or whatever opioid that they might be receiving, and not because of the excruciating pain that they're in that you just can't see, and therefore you don't believe them. So this constant, I can't imagine it was much different. I think, I feel, if anything, less people were listening then. There are definitely more protocols in place. There's, the consensus statement, it came out later. Yeah, later 2000s, I feel 90s. I just feel like care was probably very much so. You wouldn't have had so many comprehensive care centers. Lots of patients, to me, would have been lost to the cracks a bit. The transition navigator role hadn't started by then, and that's we have one at UHN between Toronto General and Sick Kids, and we have a navigator who helps patients between the ages of 12 and 20. And it's with that transition from 18 to 20 in particular, but getting them ready from the age of 12. But 18 to 20, where he's really covering them at both sites and being able to support them as they transition to the adult center, because pediatrics and adults are two different ball games. And if patients are not prepared for it, it's like a culture shock. And this culture shock leads them to miss appointments, to not be able to be consistent with their medications, to not really know about their disease and to know the seriousness, or what are the things I should do to help protect myself? What about extra immunizations that I need because I have sickle cell? These kinds of things, they wouldn't, to me, the knowledge wouldn't be there, or they wouldn't be getting that education, especially not from a transition navigator. And I don't even think we have that many now. We're in 2023. I was at a sickle cell nurse, a sickle cell nurse boot camp recently. It was in the States, but I don't really, the transition navigator role is not getting the uptake it needs, because definitely an excellent role that supports not only patients in their transition to the hospital, but he supports their transition in life in general. So their jobs, their relationships, the other things that are coming, insurance, when your insurance starts to change and you're not on your parents' insurance anymore, what is that like? Accommodations for school. Emmanuel mentioned disability. And not a lot of individuals with sickle cell will consider their disease a disability. So I commend you for being very comfortable saying that, and I feel like we need to move that lens forward so that we can then benefit from the opportunities that arise from things like the disability tax credit, or what are the things I can get as a patient that will help me because I need it. Yes. And so it's just that lack of awareness.
And I find that really scary that you mentioned that the newborn screening didn't come into effect until 2006. And that, for me, that just feels recent, because my daughter was born in 2005. And I remember they were doing all this stuff, and I felt so secure. I felt relaxed, like, okay, if anything should be happening or things wrong, hopefully not, but if anything's wrong, they're going to catch it. They're going to get so early, they're, all this, like, just as she came out, you know what I mean? But just to think, 2006, you know what I mean? Like, that was just, wow.
There's some provinces that still haven't. You know, in Canada, there's
Yeah.
still some provinces that still don't have it as a mandatory testing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So we're, you know, yeah, 2006, not that long ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that feels that I don't know, that feels very scary to me because like I said, I felt very secure. I felt, you know, everything's good. But then hearing you say
Mm-hmm.
2006, you know, after the fact, it's like, wow. Emmanuel, like Karen mentioned, did something happen at about that you remember? I'm not sure if you know, but at around 3 months, did something happen that triggered your parents to say, hey, we got to find out what's going on with your son?
Yeah, I mean, I wish my mother was around, but one day she will tell that story. But they said that I used to cry a lot. Like as a kid, I would cry so much, and like to the point where neighbors would come knocking on the door and say like, yo, what's going on in there? Like, you know, what are you guys doing to the kids? So I guess obviously they would probably always take me to the hospital. Probably that was probably one thing that was happening. And then another thing that happened was there was a time where my feet were swollen. My feet and like my fingers were kind of swollen.
At
And
3 months.
yeah,
Wow.
can you imagine? That's like as a mother or a parent, like that's scary.
That's very scary. Very.
Very scary. So they took me to the hospital, and I guess that's probably what happened. They found out. I like I said, I have pictures. I really would like to get the details of that situation one day from them. I haven't had a conversation before, but I'm pretty much that's what happened.
Wow. So let us know on the next step. So now you found out, or your parents found out that at 3 months you had sickle cell. So at this point now, you mentioned that you're going to and from appointments, and you knew something was different. You knew you were different compared to the other kids. So what was life like at this point? You know, you're going about your daily routines. You're feeling, you know, ill. You don't feel 100%. Like you said, you were slightly winded. So what's the next steps at this point? Like what was your parents told? Okay, what do we need to do? Do you just give you medication, hope for the best? Like what was the next steps at that point?
Yeah, it was more so like giving medication. I remember there was even this like machine that we had. It was it was almost like it was giving me oxygen. Like and they would put like something in it. I
Ventolin.
forgot.
Yeah, it's your Ventolin that you're inhaling. Yeah, Ventolin.
Yeah, I would inhale it. Like it was. This is the '90s. Like, can you imagine? There's like a whole machine like at home. It's like, I would take medication. In terms of like Tylenol and stuff like that. Like those times now, hydroxyurea wasn't penicillin. I think it was penicillin we were taking those times. There was like this pinkish medication. It was a little bit bitter. But I was just going through the motions of like just medications and this checkups, and like coming from a Christian home, it's like they just pray. Like I'll get sick and just you go see pastors and like do just church, and like I'm a kid like who just doesn't really know what's really going on right now, like, you know, and it's just medications. I get sick, and the sick that's happening as I'm getting older, it's like pretty bad. Like I'm getting sick, like, you know, the pain is like cruciating, and it's like, yo, I feel like I'm gonna like die or something, like, you know. And I remember I was in grade 5 and I had my gallbladder taken out. That was like one of the big ones, like, you know, like from like being young to like grade 5 hits, and I had this operation. They took out my gallbladder, and I remember I spent like probably like 3 weeks, who knows, maybe a month in the hospital. I can't remember, but I missed school.
Was that the sickle cell? Like, did the sickle cell damage the gallbladder, or that was something completely different?
No, it's a sickle cell.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm in the hospital now. I had the operation, and I remember March break came around, and my cousins came over, and then like we were like looking at like my cuts, like, you know, I was like, oh, look, I got an operation, and it's like we're kids, like, you know, and oh, I had this cut open, and and my cousins are looking at it like, ew, like, you know, like, oh my god. But I did not know how serious this thing was, like, you know.
You just got a cool scar. Looking at this.
And I one thing I could say that also I did remember was there's some good times being like going to the hospital with Sick Kids Hospital is nice, man. As a kid, it was like they designed it very nice. They had the pictures, the game rooms, and Nintendo was a thing back then. So you would go to the hospital and you would have Nintendo and 64 in the hospital. Freezies, chalk, like it was very interesting, like, you know. So I remember those days when I would skip school, like for my appointments. It was like, oh, I'm going to Sick Kids. Oh, okay, I get to go like get some snacks, play some video games, color. Like
They
it
did a
wasn't so
very good job. They did a
they
good
did
job
a
at
very
distracting
good
you.
job. They did
Yeah.
a very good job. And I remember there's one day, there was they had a game room downstairs somewhere, and it was with the works. That time GameCube had come out, and they had GameCube only down there. You could have 64 come up to your room, and Nintendo come up to your room, but Dreamcast and the other games were downstairs. So I went down there, and I remember there was a black lawyer who was volunteering, and you know, and years later, here in my space, it's like that guy. It was just so nice to have those people helping you and just there, like, you know, as a kid, like they make the place this fun, like, you know what I mean. And like there, I remember I would see a lot of kids with cancer, and you could tell the hospital was trying their hardest to like make you feel like you weren't in your worst place. Like, you know, there was like clowns and like the Raptors would come there, like, you know, and sign stuff. And that game room, I honestly, I could remember I would even go down with my IV, like, you know, pull. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Marnie's Lounge.
Marnie's Lounge.
Is that what it was? Okay.
This is why she's here. This is why she's here. I can't even say it.
I love pediatrics, right? People will be like, oh, how can you work with children? I'm like, what? I work with adults now, but 13 years, it was children. And it's because of the resilience of families. And you want to enlighten their journey as much as you can. And I worked with cancer patients. So, you know, appreciating just however you can help it be the best journey possible.
Yeah,
whatever that journey looks like, right? So yeah, definitely. I definitely got to meet some people. I feel like I got to meet Michael Douglas. Like it's not on purpose, but you know, that was the unit. And this is some of the, you know, I always think about disparities now all the time in my brain, right? Oncology to hematology, right? Well, on the oncology unit, let me tell you, you know, every single room had a whatever video PlayStation up in it, you know, with a big screen TV and DVD player. And by the way, Emmanuel, I worked there in 2002. So I know I had to have been around. I wasn't on the 7th floor as much when you would have been a child there, but I wasn't in the hospital, just on a different floor.
2002, I was 12.
Yeah, so you would have still been there. Yeah,
I would have still been
till you're 18. Yeah.
So your paths may have crossed in some way.
I love it. Yeah.
You mentioned before, Emmanuel, that actually what Karen said was Ventolin that you were taking in the mask. Now, is it that I know Ventolin because my daughter has asthma, so I know she takes Ventolin, and before, you know, when she would have, you know, flare-ups, we'd take her to Sick Kids and they'd give her the mask with the Ventolin. Is there breathing issues with sickle cell as well? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like, and we'll get into that later. Like I had lung pneumonia a few times. Like, you know,
okay, gotcha.
Like my lungs, I had lung failure in 2019, but like, yeah, like I noticed like in the wintertime as a kid, like it would be so windy outside, and like I would feel like I couldn't breathe. Like I don't know how the other kids felt, but like if there was a gasp of wind, I was like, oh my God, like, you know, or, like just running in the gym and just like I was never able to like excel in sports because the stamina wasn't there. Like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't keep up, right? So it was like, okay, if I can't keep up, I'm not even gonna like love this. Like, you know, I can't like, you know, excel, like even like improve my skills in like that sport because it's like I can't even keep up. Like, you know, like we would run in gym and it's like I couldn't do the cross country runs, like, you know, or like the track and field, certain things, and it was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know how somebody else feels. Like I said, this is the body I've been in like the whole time, but I just felt like, am I lacking some type of like breathing? Like, you know, like, and then sometimes like later on, I noticed it almost feel like there's blood in your like lungs, like, you know, like, but that's just what it was. I guess that was part of having sickle cell.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead, Karen.
I was just gonna jump in for the Vincent because individuals with sickle cell are definitely prone to infection because their spleens don't function normally from a very young age, and that really helps clean the toxins out of our body and helps us fight infection. And so being prone to things like pneumonia or different types of infections is common in sickle cell. I would think the Vincent as a child, is it possible that when he was breathing, did he have some wheezing sounds? Because with pneumonia, you don't tend to hear wheezing as much. You tend to hear some crackles, some crackling noises because there's liquid in there. Whereas asthma is going to be more closing of the airways. And that's what you're hearing is the air trying to move through airways that are tightened. And so it could be, just to say, it can be a combination of things, to be totally honest. Or it also could be lack of knowledge. It could be that the providers were not sure what to do, and so they decided, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
You just never know. So just to say, in that moment, because you're doing it at home. Did you say you're doing it at home? I mean, was it a regular treatment, or this is only when you came to hospital you found you were doing the nebulizer, the inhalation?
No, I was doing it at home. Like there was a
Yeah.
big machine.
Yeah, I've seen the big, it's a serious
It's like
situation going. Like you're probably scared of it a bit as a kid, like honestly. So doing it at home, maybe he did have asthma. Like it'd be interesting, right, to look back at this history, like what was up with his lungs to have to do inhalation at home. We don't have many patients who are doing any sort of inhalations at home, but we do have patients who are prone to asthma for sure. So it's very possible.
Yeah. Okay. So, Emmanuel, thank goodness at this point in time, you no longer have sickle cell. Thank goodness, which is great. Tell us how this happens. How do you just, your sickle just disappeared? What happened there?
So basically, well, right now I'm seven months post stem cell transplant.
Congratulations. Yay.
So, beautiful. Congratulations.
Yeah, usually this process takes about 2 years maximum. So like, not to jinx myself, I know God's gonna ensure that he's gonna wipe away this disease, but right now I'm 7 months post, thank God, and I've been well. But just to give you guys a little bit of the backstory as to how I have a stem cell transplant. I just happened to be a candidate. After so many years of being in so many crises, basically what happened was I had the opportunity to be offered a chance to get a stem cell transplant, and this was in 2019. Basically, I had found out from a friend of mine. That friend, I met them in Ghana. I went on vacation, and so we were just having a discussion, and I guess like alcohol was involved. And basically what happened was, I stay away from alcohol. Like, I don't like to drink because it would trigger my sickle cell crises, right? So that was a conversation that we were having where she noticed that, you're not drinking. I said, yeah, like, I don't drink. It's because of the health reasons. And then she asked me, and I basically said, hey, I have sickle cell. And then she's like, oh my God, my brother has sickle cell, but he doesn't have sickle cell anymore. He got a stem cell transplant. So this was back in like 2020. Yes. Yeah, 2020, 2021. I was in Ghana, and then we had that conversation, and then she was from America, and she's like, yeah, he got a stem cell transplant, and he got a stem cell transplant for my sister. And he's like 8 years past, like, this guy's living his best life. He used to get sick a lot, and he has a kid now and everything. And I said, what? I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Is this your first time hearing of this?
Yeah, like literally face to face, like someone having a conversation with me, like saying that there's a cure for this, like that. That was the first time I had read about it, but it was like articles in like London and like in like other countries, like, so the conversation.
So your doctor never mentioned, your doctor never mentioned this to you?
Oh, no. Like, I think like once, but like not really, like, it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a conversation. I think I did know that you could be put on like a waiting list, and I'd even understand the education behind it. Like, it wasn't explained to me like, this is what happens during a stem cell transplant, and this research is out there, but it's not here in Canada. Like, it was not brought up to me. If I did not run into this girl,
You wouldn't
have that firsthand encounter, and I wouldn't know.
So Karen, let me ask you now. So at this point, Emmanuel said, 2020, 2021, he's finding out for the first time there's this thing that could actually eradicate his, sickle cell. Is this something that you heard about at that time as well? Or was it just still kind of trial and error phase? I'm trying to figure out why his medical team didn't say, hey, you know what, Emmanuel, let's do this for you. Let's try to give you a stem cell transplant and just make you healthy. Like, why wouldn't someone on his medical team say something unless it was, early stages or.
So I can't, to be fair, I can't, it's not, to me, it's always about context. I am not exactly sure about some of the thoughts I have. Transplant's not an easy decision, It's not like, yes, it's a cure, but it doesn't come without some work. Like the conditioning regimen is not that easy from my perspective, from not even my experience, from what I've heard. And also I want to say, as an oncology nurse, I saw a bit different, because it was the transplants. To me, the conditioning regimen was just more intense when you had cancer. When you have sickle cell, the conditioning regimen meaning the chemotherapy they're receiving before they have their transplant, it's not as intense for sickle cell patient because it doesn't need to be, and we don't want it to be because there's lots of side effects the more intense it becomes. If they wouldn't talk about it, is it because we don't have enough literature to help support the move? And it's, before any sort of protocol or change in actual treatment happens, there tends to be trials first. And so were they working on the trials? I could see that, we're still in, right now it's a standard of care, right? So I feel like, because I did a video very recently for UHN, and so it is a standard of care now. So I think before that, though, it would have been in research phases. Oh, look, London's doing something, UK, or that is the UK. Maybe somewhere else is also doing something somewhere in the US, for example. Okay, let's see what's going on. It takes, it does take some time to bring that info together and then to decide like who's going to lead what, where will this be done? It just, to me, I think it takes a lot of coordination and time. Okay. I can tell you moving things forward in healthcare takes so much time. So because you want to be sure patients are safe, right? So they would do some trials so I feel like that would be why I can't say for sure, but I feel like it's that from a timing perspective, to me, it would have been that, it's still new. And then not everybody qualifies. It just depends, how severe is your disease? Are you following your disease modifying therapy? There's other factors for sure that I'm not aware of as not being one of the medical team members, but those are the
I'm glad you said
that come to
something
mind.
because I was getting riled up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I was like, wait a second, what? There's something that can help him and nobody said anything, but now you gave some clarity to me. So I'm better now. Thank you.
But I do still want to say, I still don't think it gets talked about enough with enough patients. There's always room. I think there's different models of care that would be really successful, but it's about providers, right? It still comes back to not having enough specialists who know about sickle cell and transplant, so, we need to have enough providers who can help lead that care and make sure that it's safely provided, and a space where there's the nurses who know how to provide the care. And what about the aftercare? Who's going to lead that? And what does that look like?
So it's still like a massive ongoing process is basically what I'm saying.
But it's a standard of care now, right? So to me, a standard of care now, whether it is that, like we saw the recent approval for the gene therapy, UK, yes, I feel that it was UK. And so there's some patients who have reached out to us. Oh, I've seen this study. Can I talk to my doctor about it? Absolutely. You can talk to your doctor about it. In your next visit, bring it up. So I think as well as from your healthcare provider, this is, patients need to be in touch with information and be able to know what is out there so they can pose it and be like, listen, I saw this. Can you tell me about why can't we explore this as a part of my treatment? Because just to be an advocate for yourself as well, because sometimes, there's things that might not just get considered because there's so many, maybe there's a focus on something else at that time. So I think also patients have opportunities, but it comes back to the education, right?
Of course. So Emmanuel, you found out stem cell transplant is available. You just heard this news. Your mind is, racing at this point. What's the first thing you decide to do?
So like it's just like Karen was saying earlier, like it was kind of even annoying that it's like, oh my gosh, like now I find out, like, like 33, sorry, not 33, but like at that point in time, it was probably like 31 years of my life has gone by already. And when I was 29, I was put in a coma. Like, it was like I lost such a big part of my life, like, before this miracle could come. So I was a little bit like, okay, like how come this wasn't told to, like, like why wasn't this an option earlier? And I remember the doctor saying to me, it's still in trial, like, it's still in trial, and like we don't have much people who's even done it. But and not only that, like Karen said, you have to be fit for it. Like, you have to be kind of chosen. Like they have to look at your file and say, okay, this is someone who I think is healthy enough for this, and also they will need it for a better life, like, so you had to fit the requirements. So I basically what next was I said, okay, like let's go ahead with this, like, I want to do it, right? So my sister's a nurse, so that too, I brought it up to the family. I said, hey, like, like, let's do this, like, and then I did some other research, and then I had found there's a girl called Rivera. She too she was the first, I think, in adult in Canada who had done it, but she did it in Edmonton. So basically what was next was okay, so they do some tests, right? And they tested both my siblings. They said, okay, let's just test to see who's going to be a match, right? So they tested both my sister and my brother, and my brother doesn't, mind you, earlier I said my sister has the trait, I have the full thing, and then my brother has no sickle cell. So what I guess they've found now is that if you happen to carry a trait, you are a better match, like, for a stem cell transplant. Yes. So my sister comes out as the match, and my brother didn't come out as the match. And then so it was perfect. It was just perfect. And like, with my sister being a nurse, like coming from a healthcare background, it was just, and she had already been a donator of blood. So we went through like a year of testing. They put me through a whole year of testing. And it was funny because like I took off work thinking that I would get into this whole stem cell transplant earlier. Like I thought it would just take me like maybe 7-8 months just of tests. No, it took about a year of testing, back and forth, me and her both. And then with me, they would do like extra like research, like any little thing that they would find, they would say, okay, you know what, you're gonna go see a specialist about this, just in case once they start chemotherapy, things don't flare up, right? Because they're wiping your immune system away. That transplant. So basically, that was what happened. I went through a bunch of tests, and then after the test, in the early few months, they gave me the green light. They said, you're a fit candidate, and your sister's a fit match. So like, we're gonna go ahead with it. And then they gave me the whole breakdown as to what will happen, how you're gonna spend a month, how your next 2 years of your life will be, like, how they're gonna wipe out your immune system, how you're gonna get some radiation, your hair's gonna fall out, how we stored my sperm cells, like we went through it all in terms of that protection, right? And then just like just a little bit of a education as to like, how things were gonna go. And then I did my own research, and like I said, there was somebody who had done it in Edmonton, and then I'm patient number 4 or 5, number 5. But basically, I had spoken to patient number 2, and then I got his backstory, right? And the thing is, what I did was with my research, every single time I would speak to somebody who had the stem cell transplant already, who had sickle cell, I asked about their life before, because like what we've noticed too among sickle cell patients is that some people have more common crises than others. Like, you know, some people have priapism, some people have more pneumonia, some people have more bone issues, some people have more hip issues. And so I just kind of wanted to figure out, oh, like, what's their story? What's my story? Like, you know, and just relate, figure out, okay, what's my like life gonna be like, you know, or what am I about to encounter? Like, you know, I spoke to the second guy who got the transplant, and then I spoke to my friend who done it in the States, her brother. I spoke to him, and honestly, I just went ahead and did it. And I wanted change, and I was willing to do. I just feel like God had given me that $1 million ticket, and it was time, you know, regardless if it was too late or if it was too early. It was my time to get that ticket. So
nothing happens before it's time, right?
Right now, I'm still minded that he's gonna give me a whole new future. So
when you found out, first of all, that your sister was going to be your donor, like, what was going through your mind? How did you find out? You know, like, give me the emotions. That's my question. What's the emotions that you're going through when you found out this is coming to an end because of your sister?
I haven't swallowed that yet. Like, I haven't even, like, I'm not even there yet. I'll be honest with you. Like, I have lived my whole life in hospital. Like, I've lived in a hospital. Like, this is not, I know where things are when I go into that hospital. Like, I know who's who. Like, you know, that's my second home. So when I found out this is gonna happen, okay, I'm about to spend another month, actually, a whole month. You spend a month, they say 6 weeks, right? A month and a half in hospital just for that stem cell transplant. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to spend another month in hospital. That's normal. Like, you know, I do that. So, okay, cool. But it's like, it didn't hit me yet. Like, I'm about to live a life without a disease. Like, I'm still going, like I said, for a year straight, I was still going to hospitals. I'm doing testing. It's like, I feel like I'm living my normal life. Like, you know, like having sickle cell, right? So till I get to that point where it's like, I can have a drink, like, you know, or I can jump into a pool and it's cold and like actually say I'm gonna practice, like, you know, swimming or learning how to swim, or like going maybe like 2 years without having a crisis, like going into the hospital and say, oh, I need hydromorphine, or like, you know, I'm panicking at 4 a.m. Until that happens, I don't know. Like, you know, like, cool, okay, yeah. To me, it was like, okay, she's just about to donate some blood to me. Like, is this really happening? Is this like really about to be wiped out? And the emotions is like, I don't know. Like, to be honest, I don't know. And it's funny because like I asked the other guys and I'm like, yo, what's it like? What is it? And they're like, I haven't even figured it out yet. They're like, they even said, they're like, he's like, like months will go by and it's like you haven't had some like a crisis, and it's like it's kind of weird, but you think, because we're always on edge. Like, we're always on edge. Like, maybe today a crisis might happen. Maybe today like tomorrow might happen. Like, you don't know when it's gonna happen, right? So I'm living my regular life, and it's like, yo, maybe this thing could actually happen. Maybe like I might not get these stem cells in my hemoglobin, might not, like, you know, I don't know. Like, you know, I just feel like I just got another IV, got some blood, and it's like, you know, but it hasn't soaked in yet. Like, I haven't, nah, yeah, I haven't,
and nothing bad has happened at this, like, okay.
That has happened.
Nothing bad has happened.
Nothing bad has happened. I've been healthy, like, compared to like I said, I asked them all about their stories. Some of them caught colds earlier on. Some of them got infections. Like the two others, one of them got, like, his hemoglobin was down. He ended up in the hospital. Another guy, he caught an infection, and like, you know, another girl, I heard patient number 3. I heard she was like, she got sick in hospital. I have had a healthy 7 months. And like I said, that just feels like a normal life. Sometimes there has been 8 months where I've never had a crisis, and then all of a sudden, next month, boom, something happens. So God forbid that's going to happen from now on. But these 7 months have been okay. They have been good. And I've been dealing with, I had a little bit of damage from 2019 coma that I got some avascular necrosis from. So I had a hip replacement for that. So I'm in my year of repair. Let's just say I'm in my year of repair. I've had this stem cell transplant, and I recently just had a hip replacement for the avascular necrosis, right? So I feel like I'm a robot, or like a superhero that is being put together, and like, it's funny because I compare my life right now to the X-Men Wolverine, and you know how they put him in the machine and they like piece him all together, and he's in pain, but when he comes out, he's like ultimate,
Yes.
So,
all that
right
adamantium inside of him, he's unstoppable.
Yes. Right now, I'm in pain. I'm being put together. I'm being repaired, but God knows, a few years from now, I'm gonna be Super Saiyan, and I know it's gonna be.
Well, I'm no doctor and I'm no nurse, but one thing I can say is I know you're bracing and you're waiting just in case that other shoe falls. It's not going to fall. You're good. You're good. I feel you're good. Once again, I'm not a doctor, right? But I feel you're good. I feel like you're doing, the right stuff. You're watching what you do and watching how you move and what have you. I don't think there's going to be you're waiting for the second shoe to drop. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel in my soul that you're good. But once again, I'm not a doctor, or a nurse. Karen, you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I got to meet number one, Reve Brown, in Edmonton. She's a nurse as well. I don't know if you mentioned that, but she's a nurse in a sickle cell clinic as well. And so she was at the nursing boot camp. She posts about this stuff, so I know I can talk about it. So I wanted to say one of the things she talked about at the boot camp for me that really resonated or really brought my attention that I didn't think about was this post-transplant kind of floating kind of space you're in, where you don't now no longer do you fit in with sickle cell patients because you don't have sickle cell anymore, but you don't really fit in with quote normal, whatever that looks like. And then post-transplant, there's not a lot of post-transplant sickle cell patients. So you don't really fit in with the post-transplant oncology patients. And there's not particularly a program for post-transplant sickle cell, or the late effects clinic does not particularly cater to sickle cells for oncology. There's this kind of like, where do I, who do I belong to? Where do I go? So this, and so when I listen a bit to what Emmanuel is saying, it was your whole life. Like you spent your whole life,
Yes.
just constantly in some state of awareness of what's next. What is next? So I think it will take time. I agree. The second shoe won't fall. It'll take time. But one thing with transplant to recognize is that any previous damage that existed is not going to disappear. And so the avascular necrosis and the pain from it that Emmanuel experiences is not going to go away because his sickle cell went away. That pain will stay there until he has his surgery and things heal up and he's things, and he said he had his surgery. So if you're still having pain, that's damage from his previous. So any previous damage from sickle cell does not disappear. So just I think that's important. And also then, your gametes, when you're ready to have children, you still need to think about your genotype is still the same one, the original one. So when you want to have children, you still need to think about who do you want to partner with and who do I want to have kids with, right? It does not change those cells. And so just making sure that that awareness is still there. And so do we do genetic counseling? Like afterwards, do we reinforce genetic counseling with patients who have had a transplant to have these conversations, especially many of them are young adults? So there's just, there's just so many opportunities. There's this, the government doesn't prioritize sickle cell because there's 3,000 people in Ontario with sickle cell. There are about 3,500 in Ontario, and there's about 6,000 in Canada. And so although that number seems small compared to other diseases, the degree in which this disease affects the entire body is more extensive than any other disease. So it affects every single organ. It has the capacity to do so. Blood goes everywhere. But the government, A, part of it is racial bias. And then B, there's not like money does not go towards hematology. So like doctors who want to go into hematology, it's not like they have a track where they promote it and actually sell and try to engage people to go into hematology, and in particular benign hematology, not malignant. So don't go, we're not talking about leukemia. No, please come this way, come over to, we need more providers who know about sickle cell and right from the schools. So it's not even taught in school. Like, let's not even, that's a whole separate show. But healthcare provider, the education system in nursing school, I just did a talk the other day. I don't remember. Oh yeah, I was at work. And so they had said in nursing school, our sickle cell content was like, a paragraph or, like a page or something. How are nurses going to provide care at the bedside if you don't tell them about it?
And I agree. It's something that should be discussed early on, like you said, like in school, right? Because it's not. I don't remember hearing it in school. I don't remember anybody mentioning it. And like you said, in order to get that type of education out there, it has to start from somewhere, right? So I agree. It's not. It's very unfortunate that it's not recognized as something serious enough to invest money, time, education. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Right. Yeah. And I'm happy, Emmanuel, to hear about some of the really great experiences you have had. But for all, there's just lots of opportunity. I think about some kids at school who will be, some of the teachers won't let them go to the washroom and they end up peeing themselves while they're drinking water to help stay hydrated so they don't get sickle cell. So they need to go to the washroom more. Like, please, or sending them outside not dressed warm enough because they don't believe that they need all this extra layers, and or they don't believe they have pain and need to go home early. It's not, it's not the healthcare system. It is extensive from wherever they touch, wherever the individual goes in their journey of life or work or school. There's barriers that they face on multiple levels. Works don't give time off, right? They won't you really need to, I can't see your pain. Like, I don't understand right now. I'm trying to convince someone, that someone needs support for a disability, but all the options on the form don't match. It doesn't match what I need to check. The box I want to check is not there, but I need a box.
We need those boxes. We need those.
I need another box. I need another box. The other box where I can just type it in and you'll be like, oh, I see. No, but they don't, right? So some of this is very structural in nature, where they omit us. We're just not there. The option is not there that would align with an individual with sickle cell, so you won't find it, because they're not trying to support us. Told us
it's very sad. That's unfortunately that's the story of the ACB community, right? So we're just overlooked in many aspects of things. So it's very sad. Emmanuel, what is life like now? How is your life after transplant? Tell me something that you're extremely happy that you can do that you couldn't do before. What is life like now?
I couldn't do before. Well, I like I said, it was too early. It's too early. I'm still like, I gotta be on my best behavior right now.
No. I want you to no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You're saying it's too early. I'm not. No, you got to give me something. I know you're trying not to jinx it and what have you.
No.
I need you to give me something. I'm not buying that. You got to give me some. Whether for me, it was ice cream.
You know what I could
eat
say?
Ice cream before. What is it for you?
It's the planning. I'm planning everything that I could comfortably plan, almost like a future, so it's not right now, but it's like I'm comfortably like the ideas and like the, not to say promises, but it's like, okay, this is really where I'm gonna go. Where now, this is really the things that I'm gonna do. This is like without feeling like, oh, I gotta worry about this. I'm not gonna have to worry about it soon. So it's the planning. I'm like, just to give you a little bit insight on me, like I'm a big planner. I'm a big thinker. So I like to think and write down things ahead of time. And so it's like that planning stage of my life, it's like I can comfortably feel like, okay, like let's do this. And also like just knowing that the idea of having a family too is like super comfortable now. Like, you know, where it's like, okay, cool, I can have a family. Like, I'm not gonna have to worry too much about getting sick on them and just not being there tomorrow. Like, you know, now it's like, oh, I have a little bit of a limp. Oh, like, you know, dad's a little bit skinny or something, like, or like, you know, like it's everything, like Karen said, it's in the past. Everything is in the past, like now. Like, you know, everything ahead now is like, okay, let's do that. Shoot for the stars, like, you know, without being.
I love that. See, I knew there was something. I love that. I'm glad you said that. That makes me feel good inside. That's beautiful.
Me too, because I have to say, if I can just add a bit to that, because one of the things I do hear from individuals with sickle cell is that despair, right? That living in the moment because you actually don't know what tomorrow looks like, feeling that because of that, you know, shortened life expectancy, or you've gone to the doctor and they've told you, oh, you're going to only live till 12, or you're only going to live, oh, you've passed 12. Okay, well, now you know, let's give you to 16. Like having your doctor tell you this over and over, so that it's very nice to hear you say you can see a future. But I want that too, right? For sickle cell patients, I want that you still need to see a future. What does my future look? So it's very nice though to hear you say that. And the family piece, I hear that from individuals as well, right? They don't see themselves really having a family because they're not sure how long they'll be around for. Some, you know, this is the feeling a lot of individuals live with and are very young to be thinking this way. So, or having to carry that heaviness around with them.
And then you might even encounter some, you know, sickle cell patients that, you know, they, even after the fact, and they've come to terms with what's happening with them, they might not want to have a family because out of fear of passing it on, right? So that's another issue as well. So in your situation, Emmanuel, the reason why I said I love your response so much is because you, like Karen said as well, you see that now. You know, you see that now, and that's beautiful. You know, everybody should experience, you know, if they choose to, of course, experience being a parent and having a child. And now you actually see that in your future, and that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. So, Karen, Emmanuel, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a great interview, very enlightening, warmed my heart with your story, Emmanuel. And Karen, your education of, you know, piece in this entire episode was great. Like you educated me, and I'm sure you educated our viewers as well. So thank you very much for joining us and sharing your story. Emmanuel, I wish you nothing but the best, because I know that's all that there is in your future. It's just the best. The best is yet to come, as they say. So I'm looking forward to hear how everything turns out with you, because like I said, that other shoe is not going to drop. You're bracing yourself. It's not going to happen. So in my opinion, just my opinion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I really I enjoyed this. This was fun. And I can't wait to like do it again with you, like in a few years from now. Like, you know, like you giving me this opportunity to tell my story and just make me feel super comfortable was like fun. And like this is the first time I've ever done this. And now we're at the end of it. It's like anxiety has gone down, and like I would love to do this again. Like it was fun. Thank you so much, Karen. Like, you know, it was actually fun. I love it.
We will definitely do a follow-up interview with you and share all your journeys and everything that you've been doing since today's episode. So we'll definitely do that. So this is the time where, oh, sorry, go ahead, Karen.
No, I was just saying thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. It was great. Thank you.
Of course. So this is the time where I share with you a nugget of knowledge. Now, a nugget of knowledge is something that it's either a quote or a saying that I feel best describes your situation, Emmanuel. And today's quote is from Maya Angelou. It says, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." And that reminds me of you, because regardless of what you went through, your journey is long and extensive. You were not defeated. You stayed strong. You stayed the course. you're smiling, you're happy. You know what I mean? You can't even tell anything was going on with you. And I love that. I love that. You took your lemons and you made it into lemonade and then some. You know what I mean? So I heard that quote and I thought of you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on the Green Table Talk. Everyone take care and have a great day. Bye.